How are you developers? I trust you're doing well. Today we'll be diving into the fascinating world of responsive web design with CSS media queries. In this session, we'll explore how to create websites that adapt seamlessly to different screen sizes and devices, ensuring an optimal user experience for everyone. So let's embark on this journey to master the art of responsive design and empower our websites to look great on any device. If you've been following the course, you are aware that before any class, you have to pull the notes from the repo that we forked before. So you can just do that. And if you are new, I'll provide the link to that GitHub repository for you to clone it and access today's notes. Without much ado, let's dive in. Once you clone the repo, you'll see this CSS folder, and inside that CSS folder, there's this 10 media queries. That is the folder that we'll be focusing on today. And you can see that folder has a readme file, and that readme contains the notes that we'll use in this class. So I'll just create a new file here. I'll call it index.html, like that. Then I'll change the title to responsive design, responsive web design. I'll also add a link to my style sheet. I'll also create my style sheet here. I'll create my style sheet like that, style.css. Yeah. Then I'll open my readme using my markdown previewer. So you can see now I have my index.html file here, my style sheet here, and my notes here. These are the today's notes. So let's start learning about CSS media queries, or how to make a website responsive in CSS. Just to remind you, we said if you have let me just create a container here. If you have this container, let me give it a class of container. Container, like that. So we said that there are three ways of adding styles to an element. You can add the styles using the inline styles, that is using the style attribute. You can also use the internal using the style element. You can use the style element like that and put your styles inside here, or you can use an external style sheet like this one here. Then you link your external style sheet like this with your HTML using this line of code. And we came to conclusion that if you have conflicting styles, if for example I put this container to have a background color of blue here, if I say style background color blue, let me just software up for you can see. Then I come here in the internal style sheet, I say the same. Let me use the class selector container, then background color red. Then I come to this external style sheet here, I say container background color green. You see I have styled the same element thrice using different approaches. I styled it using the inline style, I gave it a background color of blue. Then the internal, I gave it a background color of red. Then the external style sheet using a background color of green. And we came to conclusion that this inline is the one that will be applied because it's the one that has the highest priority. Then if you provide an internal and an external, the internal one is the one that will be applied because the internal has a higher priority than the external. So the order of priority is that this one has the highest priority, this one in inline, followed by internal, then followed by external. That was just a recap. So I was bringing that because I wanted to show you something. Also in the external style sheet, if I style this container twice, let's say I put background color green, then I say background color again. Let me just indicate. Then I say background color again, then I say something like blue. You can see I've defined the container using background color twice. But let me, if you go to the browser, our container will will have a blue background color, because this style, because it is the last one, it will override the initial styles. So in the external style sheet, the style that is below has a higher priority than the style that is above. You can just go to the browser to confirm that. If I style the same element twice, the one that is below is the one that will be applied. Let's go to the browser to confirm that. If you got the browser, oh, there's nothing. I think I forgot to put the height. Let me just put it in the developer options. But even before I put the height, you can see if I click this div, you can see the color that is applied is the blue color. You can see this green color is crossed out because it has been overridden by this color. But let me just put the height in both containers for you to confirm that. Height, let's say 200 pixels. Then let's also put here height 500 pixels. You can see all the styles that I put in the beginning, like the height of 500 and the color of green, will be overridden by these latest ones. So that means when you're using an external style sheet, the styles that are below, the ones that are below will have a higher priority than the ones that are above. So it's like the ones that are below will override the ones that are above. And that is only when you have the same properties. And you can see this, you can put a background color of green and a background color of blue. So they are conflicting. So you can't use all of them at once. So the browser has to choose one. And the one that the browser will choose is one that is below. And that is the priority order of how the style sheet works. But when you are defining your styles and you want, let's say I want this green color to be my background color, you have said that if you put another style below it, it will override this one. But if in case I want this one to maintain, I can just add here after the color, I can just add this important. If I put this one to be important, although it is on top and this one is below, this one, the background color will be green. So let me just add the height here, the height 200 pixels, and also I want to put a height in this other container. So let's go to the browser and confirm that although this green color is on top, it has been overridden by this one. But if you add this important here, if you add this one, this line, this important, the green color will have a higher priority because you have said that it is important. So let's go to the browser and confirm that. So if you go to the browser, you can see that our container is green in color, and if you look at the developer options, you can see that this one was the one that was on top. So the green one is important. So this blue one was not used. So it is crossed in the developer options because this one is stressed that this one is important than any other one that will be available in the style sheet. And that is how you can make your styles to stand out if you have two conflicting styles. But I don't see a reason for you to put two conflicting styles. But I was just showing you this thing because we'll see how this will help us. This knowledge will help us to use the media queries. That's why I decided to teach you this before I teach you the media queries. So let us learn about min width and max width before we learn about the media queries. So now let's go to the VS Code and learn something about minimum width and maximum width. So since you know about this one, I'll just clear this code here. Then let us learn about something called minimum width. Let me just leave this background color, but I'll remove this important. Then I'll add something here called minimum width. And I'll say I do something like 200 pixels. I think it is in the notes somewhere down here. This is width and maximum width. Okay, I'll just tell you the difference between minimum width, maximum width, and just width. So if you put something like minimum width here, minimum width sets the minimum width that element should have. So this is the minimum width that element can have. Meaning this element can have 200 pixels width and going up, but the width cannot be below 200 pixels. That is what this statement means. The minimum width of this element will be 200 pixels. It can't go anything below that, but it can go above. So let's go to the browser and see how this has effect. So if you go to the browser, you can see that currently you can look at this box model here. We say that this first value is for the value of the width. So you can see currently our width is at 897, or you can just, when I drag this, you can just confirm here 900 and something. So when I adjust this container, you can see the width is adjusting. But when I adjust it to something like 200, it can't go below. You can see the least it can go is 200. It can't go below. Although the screen, you can see, although the screen is 184, you can see this space here available here is 184. 184, but the element still has a width of 200 pixels. Let me put something like 400 for it to see it clearly, or let's say 500. I think 200 is too small. Let me put 500, and let me adjust this. You can see that when you go above 500, the element is increasing, but when you go something below 500, you can see that our element sticks at 500, because that was the minimum width they set for our element. So when you set an element of a minimum width, it cannot go below that width. It can go above that width, but it can never go below that width that you set. And maximum width is just the opposite. So maximum width establishes the maximum width at which an element should go. So if I change this minimum width to something like max width, like that, max width. This max width means that this element can have a maximum width of 500. You can see it now 500. There's what 500 pixels is. If I expand the screen, that element will not expand. But if I try to reduce, you can see now the element is reducing. So if you put maximum width, it means that container we can reduce to any given size. But when you try to increase it, it will increase until 500. Then it stops increasing there. I think you have seen the difference between maximum width and minimum width. Just to recap, minimum width sets the minimum width at which a particular style should be applied. So this style will only be applied 500 pixels going up. That is for minimum width. Then for maximum width sets the maximum width at which an element can get. So this element, it can go up to 500 pixels. It can go below, but not above 500 pixels, because the maximum width to be 500 pixels. And when you just say width alone, when you just say width, that you have just put a constant value, so that width will not go down or up. It will just remain at 500 pixels. So if you say width 500 pixels, when I try to adjust, you can see the width is still 500 pixels here. And if I try to increase, it is still 500 pixels. So if you just put if you just say just width like that, it will neither increase or decrease. But if you put maximum width or minimum width, you have seen how that is. So I think now you know the difference between maximum width, minimum width, and width. That is a key concept for you to understand before you start learning about the media queries. So I think that one is clear. So I'll go to the next element, that is the difference between desktop first applications and mobile first applications. So you can see in the image the first that starts from the laptop, then the tablet, then the mobile. That is called a desktop first approach. Then the other approach, you start building for the mobile, then you expand your screen for the tablets, then the last thing is for the desktop or laptop. So those are the two common approaches that are used to develop your website, and it is key for you to understand the difference between the two. So the desktop first approach, it focuses on designing websites optimized for larger screens. So you just design a website for a computer or a desktop. Then after you finish designing your website for your desktop, now you start reducing the screen. You start using these things like for desktop, you'll use the main width. So you'll reduce your screen. We'll see how you'll do that and start learning about media queries. You can decrease the screen using you can click on inspect and start reducing the screen. And you can see how the website behaves on tablets and on mobile phones. And where you see where your website breaks, that is the point where you'll add a media query and redesign your layout for it to fit that screen. And that is the desktop first approach. So for the mobile first, you design a website that fits a mobile device. So if you start you develop a website for mobile. So you design your layout to use to fit in a mobile. So after you finish designing your website for the mobile, you now start designing you start playing with the responsiveness of that site by increasing. So you designed it for a smaller screen, now you start increasing the size. For the tablet, you design for the tablet, then you design for the laptop. When I beginning this class, there was that image that was there. It showed the difference between the sizes of the mobile, laptop, tablet, and desktops. There's those differences, but you'll see them again and learn about the media queries. So those are the two main approaches that you'll use when designing your websites. The mobile first, you start with the mobile, then you increase the size. For desktop first, you start develop for the desktop, then you start reducing the size. So in relation to maximum width and minimum width, you'll notice that for mobile first, you use the max width. Because it says that max width is the maximum width that a page can have or an element can have. So you'll be using the max width for developing your media queries. And for desktop first approach, you'll be using the min width. So if that sounds ambiguous to you, let's now look it in action and see how that will look like. So let's now learn about the media queries, and you can see how you can use the min width and max width either for the desktop first approach or mobile first approach, and you see the difference between the two. So now let us learn about media queries. So in my body, let me just put two texts. Let me put all of them will be paragraphs. So I'll say this one, let's say it's called media queries. I'll write here media queries like that. Then the next paragraph I'll write by JP. So I wrote this media queries by janjaprogrammers. So I'll style these two paragraphs. First, I'll give them a class for me to style them separately. I'll have to introduce a class to both of them. So the first one, I'll give it a class of, let's say this one is the first. I'll call it first paragraph. Then I'll call it second, like that. Then in the styles, let me just remove this one. I'll style the first. First, I'll style the body because I don't want to put the color. I just want to put the color to be general. I'll style everything in the body should have a color of, let's say, blue. Then the first paragraph, we give it a style of first. To a font size of something like, let's say, the normal is 16. So I'll put it, let's say, 24 pixels. Then I'll just duplicate this one like that and say the second. We'll have a font size of something like, the normal is 16, so I'll give it something like 18, or let me give it the normal size 16. So I'll have two paragraphs. The first one will be saying CSS media queries. It will be a little bit huge. Then the next one will be a little bit small. So I want to show you how you can use media queries. So to use a media query, write this @ sign, then you say media, like that. No, let me just remove this. I want to type it manually. I don't want the autofill. I'll say media. Then here you put the media type. You can see here in the notes there are these three media types. If you say all, you'll just cover all media types. If you just put print, it will be for print devices. So if you go to the print mode, these styles will be applied when you go to the print mode. Then screen is for all screens, either phones, tablets, or laptops, or computers. All screen is for just things that have screens. So I've said print is for print media, screen is for screens, and this all is for everything. Those are the things that we'll look at. So I'll just put all. Let me just put all to cover everything. Then I'll use this and. This and is a concatenation. Then inside here, I'll put, you have learned about the max width. I'll say max width, like that. Then I'll say max width 500 pixels. So that is how you create a media query. You write media, you write @ media, then here you put the media type that you want this effect to apply. So if you put screen, it only apply to screen. If you put print, it only apply to print media. If you put all, it will apply to all. Then this is the condition. At what condition do you want these things to apply? So and these styles, in fact here, inside here you put the CSS styles, normal CSS styles. Inside the media code you put normal CSS styles. So here I can write something like, you can say when that happens and the body, now it was blue, now the color to be something like, let's say blue, let me put red. Also, you just put normal CSS inside there. You can just put normal CSS. Let me just change the value of the body and also the value of the let me just change the body first. We'll talk about the rest later. Let me just change the body. So that's how you can change the body. But you can also put any other CSS. You can just put also on that change then the first to have now a font size of maybe. You can also change the font size. But now let us just focus on the body first. But here you can just put any number of, you can just put normal CSS as you will do in CSS style sheets. Here you can just put normal CSS. That's the selector, then curly braces and the styles. So these styles will be applied to all devices, but the maximum width has to be 500. You have to put here pixels, not 500, 500 pixels like that. So as long as you have said that maximum width sets when talking about maximum width, you said that the maximum width sets the maximum width an element can have. So this means that as long as that element has 500 pixels width going down, the color will be red. But if the element has a width more than 500 pixels, it will take this normal styles. So you have seen how media queries can be used to style an element differently depending on the screen size. So that's what the browser and confirm this. So if you go to the browser, you can see that I have two paragraphs there. They have different font size, but all of them are just paragraphs and they are blue in color. So if we set a media query saying that if the maximum width is 500 pixels, the color should change from blue to red. So to show that in action, I'll just inspect for me to have this resizable. You can see it's already red. I want to have this resizable screen. So you can see if you can see if the width, you can see the width here. Here's the width, it's written here, or you can just, if you go, let me zoom out. I've zoomed in my screen too much. Let me zoom in at 100 so that I can just adjust it in piece here. So you can look at the width here. So you can see if the width is more than 500, it takes the normal blue color. But when I try to reduce the width and it reaches 500, it reaches 499, you can see the color changes to red. Because our condition of setting maximum width 500 pixels is now true. And if that condition is met, the media query styles are applied. I think that is clear. We put the media query and set it as long as the screen is below 500 pixels, you want the font size to be red. You want the font color to be red. But if it's above 500 pixels, just take the normal styles. So that is how you can use media query. You can just set conditions. If anything you put inside that parenthesis has to be true for those styles to happen. So if you remember ours, you put maximum width 500 pixels. So if the maximum width is 500 pixels, that means 500 pixels and below, because you said that the maximum width is used to set the maximum width that an element can have. So if you say maximum width 500 pixels, you mean that that element should have 500 pixels going down. So if it has 500 pixels width going down, the styles will be applied. But if it's above 500 pixels, the styles will not be applied. That's why before I taught you about media queries, I first taught you about the maximum width and minimum width. You have to understand the difference between the maximum width and minimum width. So that is how you use the media queries. This and here is a logical operator. So it says that for all types of medias, this style should be applied, but also they should have this maximum width of 500 pixels. But sometimes it just says written this way. Just the same thing. So if you don't provide any media type here, if you don't provide any media type like that, it will apply for all media types. That is how you'll see it mostly written. You have said this and is for you to use. It is a logical operator to mean first it's for all media types, and also this condition must be met. Sometimes you'll see here written screen. If it's written screen, it means that this condition should be applied, this media query should be applied only to devices that have screens like phones, laptops, and also for this to apply, the device should be having a screen, and also the maximum width should be 500 pixels. So this will be something like for phones, then these things will apply. Because it says 500 maximum width 500 pixels means that the width has to be 500 pixels below, going down. And sometimes you can see here written min width. So this is almost the opposite. So min width means that this style will be applied for devices that have 500 pixels going up. So that's the difference between max width and min width. So that's why you said that the max width and min width are used But either you're using mobile first approach or desktop first approach. So if you're using mobile first, you start from a small screen going large. So you will be using that max width. But if you're using desktop first approach, start with a big screen going down. So you'll be using the min width. That is what you said. So that is it with the screen. And also you can just put here something like there's that print media. You say print. If you say print, this color will only be applied for print. So let me just remove this. Let me remove this. You can just see sometimes written like that. So if that is a print media, you'll have this style. Let us test this in the browser and see how it looks like. So I've set a media query where when someone is printing, I want the color to be red. So let's go to the browser and see how this looks like. So now you're testing the print devices. So you can see now my paragraph is blue in color. So let me try to print. You can just hold Command P or Control P to try to print. So you can see that printing is there. So you have set the media query so that on print devices the color changed to red. So you can see that is the case in my side. You can see if I try to print this page, it changes to red. So that is how you can use the print devices. But in most cases you'll see it's set for either all or screen. But depending on what you want your device, what you want your website to display, you can set for the print or even for speech. For speech is for those for screen readers. All those are the media types that you can use for the media queries. So let us look at the next thing. Let us look at orientation. We can set orientation to landscape and portrait. Before we talk about the orientation, let me show you something. If you remember when you started the class, I told you about the order in which CSS executes its things. So you have seen here you put the body first, then you put the media query later. But if you try to put the media query before this style like that, you'll notice that your media query won't work. Your media query will no longer work because you can see this media query is trying to, let me just return it to how it was, something like that, max width. So you can see the media query is trying to limit, it's trying to check if the width is 500 pixels, then to apply this color, but this other style here overrides it. So this media query will be useless. That is why before you started the class, I told you the order. You can just test this. Let me just save and test it, and you can see that it won't work because you have put the media query before the styles that you're checking the condition. So this media query won't work. But for it to work, this body has to be above. Has to be above the media query. So let me just put it below, and you can confirm that it won't work. Let me go to the browser and test it, and you see that it won't work. So if you got the browser, let me just put the responsive design. So if you put responsive design, you can just inspect and adjust this screen like this, or you can just click on this button here, then to select here responsive, select this responsive, then now you can just adjust your screen anyhow that you want. So you can see even though I put the screen to be less than 500 pixels, the color is not changing to red because we put the body below the media query. So the media query has to be below the styles that you're trying to change for it to work correctly, because that is how the CSS is being executed. If you put the styles below the media query won't work because it will be overridden by those styles. And that is the thing that we started talking about before the class started, because I need you to understand that thing so that when you come to media queries, you'll never put media query you'll never put the styles below the media query, the styles that you're trying to change with the media queries. So in my media query, I'm trying to change the body. So if I put the original body below the media query won't have any effect because the body will just override that media query. And that we saw it when the class began. If you forgot, you can just reverse the video and look at the beginning and see how we did that. So now let us look at the orientation. So let me return my code to the working state. Let me just return the code the way it was working. I just have to cut that body and put it on top of the media query. Like that. So if it is that way, it will now work because you can see the body is up here and the media query is down. But in most cases, you have to follow the media query just for easy readability of your code. You have to follow the media query with they have to follow each other so that someone can know that this body here, but the body is being changed according to certain screens. So someone might not wonder if maybe they're running, maybe if this one was below there, maybe it was down here, it will work. But if someone is following the code, he might wonder why is maybe it's doing that code in a mobile device. You might see why is my color red, and in your code I can see color is blue. So for easy readability of your code, you have to put this following each other like that, so that someone can easily read your code. You can see the body is blue, but under some conditions the body might change the color. So you have to put these colors following each other so that someone can easily read. And also you can put more than one media query in your code. It's not a matter that you have only one media query. You can say this media query is for the body. I can set another media query for the paragraphs. I can just set another media query down here. You can say media. You can see my VS Code is automatically filling for me. I'll just leave this one to be blank, and if this one is blank, it will mean for all types of screen. Then you're saying you're talking about orientation. I'll just put here orientation like that. Then I'll set orientation to, you know that orientation is either landscape or portrait. So let me put my orientation to landscape. And if the orientation is in landscape, I want the color of the first paragraph the initial color was blue. I want the color of the first paragraph to change from the blue to, let's say, something like green. So you can see here I'm changing the color of this first paragraph when the orientation is landscape. So I have to put my screen, when someone is using a landscape screen, the color will be green. But also you can also put, you have said that inside here you can put normal style. You can also change the font size. But the font size, it's 24, maybe I want it to be 50 pixels, to be very huge. But that is not practical. Maybe someone is, you can just put any, I'm just trying to show you how you can use the landscape. So you can just say, let's say 40 pixels, so that you can see the difference between 24. I'm putting a huge value so that you can see the difference, so that you can see that it has increased the value. So let's go to the browser and confirm if our screen is in landscape. I want this first paragraph to change the color from, I think it is blue, then from blue to green, then also the font size to increase. And also keep in mind that this here is still there, so even this might, if the width is less than 500 pixels, it might change to red. But if it is 500 pixels and portrait, it will be red. But 500 pixels and landscape, it will be green. Let us go to the browser and see that. So if you go to the browser, you can see that my media query is already green because my screen is landscape. Landscape means that the width is greater than the height. So anytime the width is greater than the height, that is landscape. If the height is greater than the width, that is portrait. So you can see that this one is a portrait design. I've just inspected and I clicked this button, then I went to responsive design. You've seen if the screen is portrait, you've seen now it's portrait, you can see the color is red. But if I try to reduce the height, you can see now the color is green, and also the font size has increased. That is because of the media query that I put and set orientation to, if the orientation is landscape, and the first paragraph to have a green color, and also want the font size to increase to 40 pixels. And that is why when I reduce the screen, you can see it's working that way. Also, if I reduce the width this way, you can see if it's landscape, as long as the width is greater than the height, you can see the width is 1200 and the height is 990, so the color will be green. Every time the width is greater than the height, the color will be green. And that is how you can adjust your elements according to the different screen size. So if you can set if someone is using a tablet, because if it is in landscape, that is most likely a tablet. But also here in responsive design, there are these options here. You can just select, where's that tablet? You can just select any phone here and test it. And also you can just edit and put your own device that you want to test. Like if you're testing this phone, you can see it in Samsung S20, it will be landscape. And maybe if I put iPhone, you can see there, it's still landscape, because these ones are phones. I think this one is a tablet, iPad mini Air. Yeah, it's blue. iPad Air, blue. Yeah, that is how you can play with those designs. And let me go back to the notes and confirm if there's anything else that I have to talk about. Also in this orientation, you can just also put here something, as we said, it's landscape and portrait. You can just put portrait. You can just put portrait and see how that will be. Also, you can combine more than one conditions. You can see the screen is portrait. You can use the and. We have already talked about the and. You can say and, put another condition there. You can say max width, and max width is something like a phone is usually something for 475 pixels. So there's a, let me just soft wrap so that you can see my screen. Alt Z. So you can say I can put more than one condition. So this styles will only be applied if the orientation is portrait and the maximum width is 500 pixels. So even if the orientation is portrait and the maximum width is not more than 500 pixels, this will not be applied. And that is how you can mix more than one condition. But if you want to use or instead of and, if you want to use or, if you want either of the two to be present, you can separate them with a comma. This will mean either orientation is a portrait or the max width is this one. That is when these styles will be applied. And that is how you can use the media queries. So let me look at the notes and see if there's something else. Because the width, the orientation, you have talked about it. The resolution is okay. Media types, you have talked about the all. You have said all is for all media types. Print is used for print media, and you have said how the print media is. If you try to print your web page, that is for the print media, and screen is for any device that has a screen. And you have seen how you can use this and not. You have seen how you can use and to separate different conditions or different media features. And also only. You can also use only. If you want only screens, for example, let me show you how you can use this only. The syntax only. You don't go to the browser. Just talk about the syntax. I can say media, then only screens. This means that I want only screens to have this. Anything else that is not a screen should not have this. And you can say here not screens. When I say not screens, I mean all other medias except screen. Or you can say not print. Anything, not run media type here. If I say not print, I want these styles to apply to everything except print. That is how you can use the print. But mostly you'll see that you have to combine other, or if it is print, you'll just see here it's written only print, because you want, for print it's a unique case. So for print you specify different colors that are visible on paper. For this is for not and only, and I've talked about the not, I've talked about the only, the and. If you want to put or, you can just put a comma for it to get or. I've already talked about that. What else? The max width and the min width, you have talked about that. So that is it for the media queries. And as you know that after every week we have an assignment. So this is the week 4 of learning CSS. So this is the 4th project of CSS. We expect you to build a website that promotes a company or a product. So after this week's assignment is to build a website that advertises a product or a company. Your website will have this. You can look at the notes and confirm. It will have high quality image. For images, you can use pixels. I'll share the link in the video description for the pixels. For the pixels, you can see you can get high quality images there. Clear messaging, you have to use good font. User-friendly design, and also should be, you can see here, across different devices and screens. So in short, your website will be responsive. That is what I've talked about today. You can use the media queries to set your responsiveness of your website. And that is the assignment for this week, and we expect you to submit them where you always submit them as usual. I'll just put the description of where you can submit in the video description also. So that is it for today's class, guys. I hope you have understood the media queries and how you can use them. So see you in the next class. Peace out.